Let's turn to exploring the Shema, discussions on the issues of Trinity, and pick up where we left off. We're talking about social Trinitarianism and the way that the Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox Church or the Eastern Orthodox believers interact with the idea of Trinity. And we've been using this kind of triangles that you guys can't see. Those of you in my live class, you can't see it, but those in post-production can see it. It's the idea that from a Catholic perspective or the Western Church, we kind of start with the idea of God the Father and God the Son as the two kind of important parts of the Trinity in a triangle that's inverted. So the base is at the top, where left to right, we've got Father on the left side and Son on the right side of the top part of the triangle, the horizontal line. And then when the triangle comes to a point down below, we've got the Holy Spirit down there. I believe that's what the triangle looks like. I'm not looking at it right now. I'm just pulling it from memory. But then when you compare this to the Eastern Orthodox model of Trinity, the triangle sitting right side up, where at the top, the apex part, the point of the triangle, is the Father. The Father is the kind of the more important part of the Trinity, and then below that, to left and right, you've got Son and Holy Spirit off to left and right at the two bottom parts. And so, to your average untrained, uncaring, really, eye, meaning your average garden variety, Gentile Christian or evangelical Christian. There's not a lot of difference between the two. I mean, whether you flip the triangle of right side up or upside down, at least you've got all three parts, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And it is true that both East and West church groups both affirm Trinity. It's just one is referred to Latin Trinitarianism, that's the one in the West, and one is referred to as social Trinitarianism, and that's the one in the East. And as I say in my commentary, indeed, as we observed from paper 2 above, Dr. Malto went on to explain, and he's a Christian philosopher. He said Leftow, who's also another Christian philosopher, right? Leftow has argued that among other problems with social Trinitarianism, it actually risks collapsing into a form of Arianism because social Trinitarianism posits multiple ways in which something may be divine. And so when we're talking about Trinitarianism through the lens of social Trinitarianism and the emphasis on the oneness of God with the kind of the supporting roles being played by the other two members. So in the Eastern model, God is the source. He's the source of Trinity itself. He's the source of everything. He's the one from whom the Son was begotten, and he's the one from whom the Holy Spirit has proceeded, right? So begetting and procession take place from the Father. So the Father is that top, that apex of the triangle, which is why the Eastern model has the triangle sitting right side up, where the point is pointing upwards, whereas the Western model has the triangle inverted, where the point is going down. And so when we're talking about social Trinitarianism, we talk about the Father being the source of all divinity in that mindset. And so when we look at Yeshua, we have to figure out where his role comes in. And remember, with Arianism is that form of heretical Christianity that popped up very, very early on in the 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century. It was I don't know if maybe it was 1st century, but at least 2nd, 3rd, and moving into the 4th century, the early church had to deal with this heretical perspective that Jesus was not fully divine, at least on the same level as God. He didn't have the same hypostasis as God. He had power and he had divinity, but it was on a different level, and that's why we talk about different forms of divinity. For instance, if you have a conversation with a Unitarian Christian, like the likes of Dr. Dale Tuggy, or maybe a Oneness Pentecostal, maybe a Jehovah's Witness, or a Iglesia Ni Cristo, or a one of these other Unitarian type Christian groups that are non-Trinitarian, so the Unitarian. Some of them are going to tell you, yeah, Jesus has a divine attribute about him, but it's not on the same level as God. You've heard of the heresy of the greater and the lesser Yahweh, right? God is the greater Yahweh, YHVH, and Yeshua is the lesser Yahweh. I think Rabbi Moshe Koniukowski is popular for coining this perspective of the greater and lesser Yahweh, which in my perspective is heretical. It's a kind of a form of either modalism or a form of Arianism. Arianism believed or taught that Jesus was the greatest and highest creation of God.